Hello, everybody, and welcome to Artist Corner. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Cicada Sirens.
Hey, how's it going?
And if you aren't familiar with his work, he's worked on Signalis and Deadweight, which is an upcoming game that actually I'm not too familiar with what the game actually is.
I
Would you
think
mind
it,
explaining it?
yeah, I think it just came out like maybe last week or something. I'm really
Oh,
bad at keeping up with release dates, but I think it's just like a visual novel. I played like the episode or the game before it, and it was just like mostly just like a visual novel that took place like in a cabin. It's like a cute horror game or something, but um, I think that the new one's just sort of in that same vein, so it's should be just like that. Only did like I think two tracks for it, maybe three. Um, my memory's terrible, so I don't really know.
I noticed you told me that you worked on it with Jaren Christ, which I've
Mhm.
also had on the podcast.
Oh, sick. Yeah, Jared's awesome. I just talked to them the other day, um, on Discord for a while. They're super nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. Can I ask what was the story behind how you got brought on to Signalis?
Yeah. So, I've made like all these tracks, that are all of my tracks that are on Signalis. I made them before I was involved with Signalis. It was just sort of like, uh, Corona had just started. And like I was just indoors. I just rented this apartment that was like 300 square feet. I don't think it was like legally an apartment because like it had like no windows and it was just like, you know, terrible. And like I was kind of going crazy in there. So I just started downloaded like Reaper and started making music and stuff and then posting it on like SoundCloud after I was done with like a track every week or so or whatever. And then they just found my music and asked me, about having it in the game and stuff like that, which, was how I got involved. But yeah, all the stuff I did for it was kind of done ahead of time and purely accidental that it happened at all.
It's funny you mentioned that. I feel like I've heard that story a lot where people just put their music out there and then someone reaches out to them and wants to use it for their project and then it gets big.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't, it's still hard to believe for me because like I don't really have like a, you know, a social life or anything, and like whenever, I sometimes I look at like how many plays like a track has and I'm like, holy cow, I don't even, I know like three people in real life, how's there like thousands of people listening to this? It's kind of crazy.
Which soundtracks in particular have influenced your music style?
Um, mainly just some like there's like some artists I was listening to in like 2016, I guess is when I started listening to most of them, and then just kept listening to them until well, still listen to them, but mainly like um I got into like Tim Hecker
Oh,
uh
nice.
and Ryuichi Sakamoto, um you know uh, uh oh God, there's a CD by his name's like Abel Mogard, Mogard, I think. The album's called Works. I listened to that like obsessively for a long time, and um yeah, just a lot of like albums like that are kind of like noisy, like kind of dark ambient stuff. Um, I really didn't know you could do that musically, that was a thing people did, and then once I started hearing stuff like that and like it just sort of like opened my mind to like, oh, you can just do whatever you want, you can do anything that you can dream up, so it just sort of snowballed from there, I guess.
Do you often listen to ambient music like that?
Yeah, yeah, I think most of the time kind of weirder ambient stuff like that. Um, I listen to a lot of movie soundtracks. And some game stuff too. I mean, like of course, like you know, much like every other horror composer, like oh, like I feel like I owe part of my income to like um, oh shoot, who did the Silent Hill soundtracks? Akira.
Like, I feel really bad. I always forget how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah,
It's Yamoka,
I think that's
maybe?
right. Yeah, I have such a terrible memory for names. Yeah, like him and like John Carpenter and stuff. Like I just like endlessly rip off at them. You know? Of quite a
I heard
bit.
you were a fan of Parasite Eve too.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. Got a better memory than I do. Yeah, Parasite Eve, it's huge, man. I really, it's weird because like when I started like the Cicada Sirens project or whatever, like I in my head I was like, all right, I'll just make Parasite Eve music, and then nothing happened like that. It came out like weird and ugly, and I'm like, oh, this is cool too, and I just sort of followed that, and just sort of, just kind of follow my instinct, I guess.
It's really funny how that happens. I feel like for me, the way I've found my own music style personally is
Mhm.
by trying to make music similar to artists I listen to and failing at that. So it's
It's like,
funny how that's a common thing.
yeah, I think that's what happens to everybody. I mean, yeah, I guess like, everybody has such different backgrounds, different brains, and different like instincts and everything that like even if you were even very specifically trying to rip off of somebody, I don't think people could really do it.
Yeah. What games did you play growing up?
Oh, man. So like I saw a post on Twitter the other day. It was like it was something like along the lines of, oh, this is the first face I ever saw in a video game. But it was like a game that came out on like the 360 or something, and I felt like I was 8,000 years old. Um, I grew up playing like a lot of like,
I used to
uh,
play on the 360 too.
oh man, I used to, I grew up playing like a lot of like NES and like Super Nintendo stuff, and then like I got into like PS1 and PS2 era stuff whenever I was like in high school, and I think that's like my favorite era because like I love the Parasite Eve soundtrack, love all the Silent Hill soundtracks, all the Resident Evil soundtracks. They're just all great. And I played a lot of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 um, growing up, and Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2
Mm.
pretty much played religiously, I feel like.
I still really want to play those games because I've heard those all have aged really well.
2 is amazing. I really highly recommend it. If you can get over the controls, I feel like every time I go back to it, I feel like the controls feel weird for some reason. They're not
Mm.
like awkward or really, but they just don't feel, I guess, like every other kind of like game that has shooting elements lately has like the same kind of controls, and anything that deviates from that is just feels bizarre now.
What games have you been playing recently?
Um, uh, Caves of Caves of Cud, QUD. Um, it's like a RPG roguelike thing, and it's super cool. Even though it has like no world graphics, it's just like little
So I'm gonna
tiny
look it
little
up.
things. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to even explain, but it's like this like really bizarre, uh, you know,
Oh, it has a really cool art style.
yeah, yeah. It's super cool. I love it. I really just like I love like character creation and stuff. So I like make like little weird, freaks, and I'll go out and try to like see how they do in the world, and if things will turn out right, I'll just make a new character and try it again. But um, it's a lot of fun. And I just recently replayed uh Resident Evil 8 Village or whatever.
Mm.
Um it's
I
like
never beat
it's
that
fun.
game.
You're honestly not missing much. Like I don't think like that there's any like great like story to it. I think it's just a fun like kind of action, horror
Mm.
game or something.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
I'm a bigger fan of Resident Evil 7. I've been thinking about replaying it lately. I just think it's like like the as far as like the modern like Resident Evil games go, I think it has like the best like atmosphere and setting and stuff.
Have you played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes?
Oh yeah. I like 2 and 3 quite a bit too. 2 is just amazing. I think it's
Oh yeah.
probably, oh, I
I
take
think
back what I
that's
said
my
about
favorite
7,
one.
I think. 2 and 7 are probably my favorites. I go back to them quite often. I know people don't like 3 that much because it's smaller, and I guess they were disappointed, but like I still think 3 is fun. I still like play it once in a while, and it's short and sweet, and I still kind of like it.
Yeah. I think you can get it on sale now too.
Oh, nice. That's great. I haven't played any of the like kind of offshoots like Resident Evil Outbreak or any of those or whatever. So all the mainline ones are really good.
I forgot they even have those.
Yeah, I heard some of them, some of the spinoffs are good, but uh, yeah, I just haven't got around to them yet.
What is one thing you can't live without as a composer?
Oh, goodness. That's a good question. Like I really it's so silly because like I love hardware, like synths and like samplers and stuff that I can get my hands on and use. And I feel like I'm always inspired by like what I'm doing with those, but I don't think like my process for actually making music really involves them a lot. I don't think it doesn't make any sense, but usually like I'll be playing on like I have this hardware sampler called the Octatrack. I love it. It's kind of
Mm.
insane. Um, and I'll do some like weird sound with it, and then I'll just export that single sound, and that'll be enough to kind of get me thinking about like making a song or something. And even if it fails or whatever, I still had a lot of fun with it.
Do you usually do a mix of hardware with digital stuff?
Um, yeah, lately I have been. A lot of times, my process for that is I'll just like I'll go into like Ableton and I'll grab whatever is like the kind of nearest to the hardware that I have. So I'll grab like their analog plugin or whatever. I'll do a sketch with that, and then I'll turn on the actual hardware and then kind of replace everything. Once I've kind of done the sound design and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, usually it's a mix of like VSTs or whatever like stock plugins and then whatever hardware I have.
Have you gotten to a point where you can tell the difference between the VST and the hardware?
No, I'm such a huge just I fall for everything. Like I really I'm like completely gullible when it comes to like VSTs and stuff. Even like I mean like if you have like classic like an FM synth versus like an analog synth, like if it's doing like a classic like FM, you know, DX7 style piano, I'll be able to like, oh, that's a DX7 or whatever. But I get tricked pretty easy. Like, I mean, if you do like an analog style sound on a FM synth, like I'm like, I'll just believe it. And the same thing with like a VST or whatever. Like, I mean, like if it sounds like what it's supposed to sound like, I usually don't mentally question it too much.
Speaking of synths, by the way, there's some terms that I'm a bit confused by. I was talking about it the other day,
Uh-huh.
or and they brought up wavetable and subtractive synthesis,
Uh-huh.
and I was pretty confused by it. Would you mind explaining what that means?
Oh man. So like wavetable, I actually don't use any wavetable synths, but um they just have like these tiny little like a wavetable or a waveform, I guess, is like a super small bit of a sample, and like a wavetable is like several of those tiny, tiny samples just kind of lined up that can kind of like morph between different sound waves. Like in a sense, you got like a square wave or a saw wave or
Yeah.
whatever. Imagine like more, weirdly shaped waves. And a lot of wavetable stuff is just that. It's kind of morphing between different waves and everything. As
Mm.
far as I can tell, like I don't have like what's it called, like Serum or Vital or whatever. Um, I've been meaning to get them, but I just hate learning stuff most of the time. So I just like avoiding getting like newer VSTs if I can because I'm too lazy to learn stuff.
When it comes to VSTs that you already own, do you usually work with the presets and then modify them with
Uh,
effects and stuff?
yeah, if I modify them at all. Like on my hardware stuff, I usually try to just start from like a pre or like a the initial kind of like sound where and then go from there, whatever like the blank slate is, But like on my computer, like I hate trying to like click on the little knobs and turn everything, and it just seems really tedious. So a lot of times I'll just get like a preset, and then I'll barely modify it, or if I do modify it at all, like some of the stuff I did on Signalis, like it's just straight up like uh presets from like any free VST you can find. I probably use presets from them on the Signalis soundtrack.
Can I ask where you get free VSTs from?
Yeah, I usually just like you know there's Google, and then like find there's like a website, like I think it's like bedroomproducer.com or something like that,
Mm,
that usually shows up when you Google things, and I'll just look on there and see what they suggest, or whatever the top, like, most common stuff is, and then I'll usually just get one of those. Lately I've just been using whatever stock stuff is in Ableton, or whatever I was using FL Studio. Like, they have a lot of great um stock plugins.
that's what I use.
Yeah, yeah. FL rocks. Like, I really they have a lot of cool effects and plugins, and I loved was it called Patcher or whatever, where you can kind
Oh
of like,
yeah.
yeah, Patcher was fantastic.
You can make an 8 minute long song just easily with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd go into like Patcher and I'd build these like chains of effects that have like kind of like parallel sets of effects, and I would just like play piano, and then the stuff I built in Patcher would start like feeding back into different like pitch shifters and reverbs and God knows what else, and I would just have like this huge track pretty instantly, and it was really nice.
It
Um,
makes you feel like a programmer.
it really does. It feels like cheating, like whenever I'm doing it a lot of times, because I'm like, I like make like this really cool like piano track, and I've only really played one thing, like kind of mostly live, and then Patcher's just doing all the other crazy shit for me.
I can imagine how creative you can get when it comes to using that and then a bunch of contact libraries and stuff too.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a lot of luck with Contact. I got it. Um, it was one of the devs for a game I worked on got it for me.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, it was super nice of them. And but I've not really used it a ton. I I don't know. Like, it's neat, but I feel like it's too um I feel like a lot of the programs I get feel like very rigid, and I can't do much with them. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, as far as like if I want to modify the sounds at all, um it doesn't feel like I can, or maybe I just don't know enough to actually do it. So I don't know.
I kind of feel the same. I mean, I only have a couple contact libraries myself
Mhm.
as well. So
What's your go-tos on Contact?
for me, have you heard of SN? It's called Contact. Wait, I almost said the name of the plugin. It's called, what is it called? Super Audio Cart. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's this SNES and NES kind of sampler, and you
Uh-huh.
can layer a bunch of sounds from old consoles.
Hmm.
And then
Sounds really cool.
I also use one called Rickenbacker
Hmm.
Bass.
Oh,
That's really
sick.
good.
Man, I really wanted a Rickenbacker bass uh when I was like in middle school and into high school. Because do you remember that anime series? It's like FLCL with
Oh,
the
I love that.
oh man, I wanted a
Yeah.
blue bass just like the one she had. They're too expensive though. They're crazy expensive.
Are you a fan of I forget the band name, The Pillows, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. God, I used to play that theme song like obsessively on guitar. Um, was it Right on Shooting Star or whatever, the
I
track
forgot
is?
all the names.
Oh my God. I
They're
used to play
all
that
really good.
constantly. Yeah, yeah. I was a huge I was really big into like, Japanese, like, I mean, because I, grew up just watching a bunch of anime and shit, then like found all these bands through that and listened to them a lot. And then I sort of fell off of it, going into my 20s, like, um kind of forgot about, anime and stuff for a while, but I've kind of watched some lately. I've been getting back into it a little bit. There's some good stuff coming out. Um, I can't remember the names for anything though.
I was
Um,
gonna ask that, but that's all right.
I watched that whatever that dungeon one is, where they're just eating shit in a dungeon. That one was cool. Um, and then I think it's Doro Hedoro with the guy with the alligator head or some shit. He's trying to find out who he is. I think he's a
Interesting.
wizard or something. I'm, I don't know. I'm like, my memory for like remembering the names of anything is terrible. Like, I'm only like 38, but like I feel like my brain has just forgot how to hold on to information in the last like 3 or 4 years.
That's honestly me with It depends on what it is. I think, especially with names of places for me, I get
Hmm.
really bad at that.
Yeah, it's terrible. And like I watch like a lot of movies and stuff, and I watch, tons of everything. And then like if anybody asks me about like what's it's called or what's it about, I'm like, oh buddy, I don't know. Um,
Maybe that just means you're in the present while you're doing
maybe if we
it.
spin it in a nice way, you know. The good thing about it is whenever I rewatch something, I don't remember a ton about it. So I'm always like kind of surprised by stuff and like happy to see it again, you know.
I think I've been there before too.
Um, yeah, I really lately I've been watching a lot of older older movies and stuff, and I really love. I don't even know how to explain it. There's a lot of like distortion and kind of like clipping or something that's in a lot of like old like orchestral, like scores and stuff from like 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. And like it just seems like there's like a weird kind of fuzz on everything a lot of times whenever
Mm.
it gets really loud, especially on like, shitty kind of horror movies or whatever, you know. So like uh I really love that sound quite a bit. I'd love to be able to like kind of like get into figuring how to recreate that kind of sound.
I don't know. Do you think they used tape recorders back then for that kind of stuff?
I think I may be wrong about this or misremembering, but I think like they did, but I think it was also like transferred to like a couple different things because they would like record it to tape and then they would run it through like another tape machine with like a special set EQ. I think it was called like the Academy curve or something, basically just shaving off a lot of the low end of things and a lot of the high, so so it'd be easier on like the theater speakers and stuff like that. And there's like a lot
Mm.
of like reamping and re-recording involves. I think it does go through some kind of tape process like a couple times. It gets kind of scummy sounding. Even, on like decently budgeted stuff, they all kind of had like little bit of grit to them.
I think that adds to the aesthetic, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like my favorite kind of sound. It's just like that, like I guess I stopped hearing it like in movies, like going into like movies that's like around the 80s, 90s, whatever, you kind of stop hearing so much of it, but like you definitely still hear it all the way up into like the 70s. It's like a lot of like kind of warm, kind of fuzz and distortion on stuff whenever it clips. And it's just always kind of cool. Not that it clips like too badly, but there's a lot of character there, I feel like.
I don't know. I don't know how to recreate that kind of stuff. Do you have any advice for recreating that sound?
No, I wish. Like I'm always sort of like chasing this sort of intangible idea of like how things sound in my head. Like if I try to imagine
Mm.
like the score for something, I always kind of overdo it whenever I'm like like thinking back on like the score for like, I don't know, seconds or some old movie or something. And like in my head it just sounds like way more distorted anyway. Like whenever like I'm trying to think of it and draw inspiration from it. And when I go and like start like layering different distortions and stuff, it ends up just being like a crazy amount of distortion anyway.
Mm. I think what I've been doing is I use RC20 for that, but it's not the
Oh, sick.
same.
Oh yeah. RC20. I haven't picked it up yet. I use there's a VST called Sketch Cassette by Abra Audio, I think, and it's really good. And then
I'll
there's
have to
like
check that out.
yeah, all their stuff is really good. I've got all their plugins and I really enjoy all of them. They're all like 15, 20, 30 bucks somewhere around there.
Oh,
And they're all
nice.
like really, really good. I've been using they've got a like a weird compressor that just like is too much, you know? And like I've been using it a lot lately just to kind of get like different like I guess articulations out of things because like it can kind of like bring out the front of the attack of like a note or something. So I've been using that one a lot lately.
I might be remembering this long wrong, but I'm doing an audio technology class in college,
Uh-huh.
and in the class we were learning about some different technologies and stuff. And one of them was a tube compressor, and it
Hmm.
cost I think a couple of $1,000.
So
I
that's
don't
not
know
fun.
why you pay that much for a compressor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, me neither. I mean, like unless it was like a thing that like you really love the sound of and can't live without, I guess I definitely get it. But yeah, I honestly I like things that make stuff sound worse most of the time. So like if I do like want to get like a piece of like audio like processing gear, it's usually just something kind of shitty. Like I have these old rack mount reverbs. They're like digital reverbs from like the 90s, and they distort like really bad if you come if you put in like too hot of a signal. And it's such a cool sound. Like it sounds like, you know, it's not like great for everything, but if you like you need like a secret sauce, you know what I mean? It's just great to just plug a couple of them up, run them into each other and then run everything into it just like super hot.
Would you
Um,
say that reverb is really important when it comes to scoring for horror?
oh yeah. Like I think like distortion and reverb are probably the two most important things to me. And they're like the two things that um I feel like you can get a lot of mileage out of just those two things. And because I always experimented, not so much lately, but for the past like couple years, like convolution reverbs and like trying to,
Hmm.
you know, put weird sound files in there and see what happens or whatever. And or a lot of times you can just like record yourself playing like a chord on piano and then put that into the convolution reverb, and then whenever you hit that note um on the piano, it's just gonna like feedback kind of crazy. So a lot of cool techniques like that, can be done with like super simple, ingredients.
You can also do reverse reverb too, right?
Mm, absolutely, which is always awesome. I love reverse reverb.
I need to learn how to do that.
I didn't even think about that. But a lot of them just have like the reverse settings. I guess you could like um have your reverb on a second track and then just record that and then flip the sound file, I guess.
Maybe. I'll
I'm
try
not
that
sure.
later.
Yeah, you probably could in FL. I don't know. I've been off I switched over to Ableton like early this year, and I don't think I remember anything about FL Studio. If I had to go back, like, I really liked it when I was using it, but I just can't my memory hold on to things for too long.
It sounds like you've had different experience with multiple DAWs.
Yeah. Yeah, I started on Reaper, which I loved, and you can do a lot of cool stuff in Reaper, and it's only like $60 or something. Um,
Dang.
it's super cheap. I think the free trial is like forever too if you don't want to pay for it. So like,
Yeah, I've heard it's like WinRAR.
yeah, yeah. I mean like if there's anybody out there who's thinking about starting music but doesn't have any money, get Reaper, get any free VST you can, and yeah, you can do a lot with that. Um, highly recommend it.
I've also heard Reaper is good for sound design. I've heard it has a faster workflow.
Yeah, I really it feels like very direct, but I feel like if they just like invested in the UI like at all, like it'd be like a much better DAW that people I think people would go to quicker. But I just think like the UI is such a turnoff for most people that it's just, you know, it's hard to get into it. I know you can like customize it to look like whatever. So I mean like maybe it was just me being lazy, and like if you have the extra energy, maybe you can invest it in making the UI look better. But um yeah, I'm just I've never had time for it, I guess.
In my opinion, I think for me, FL Studio, I think the piano roll is what keeps me in it.
Yeah. Yeah, FL Studio, like I really like the piano roll quite a bit, and I like the like I like Patcher a
Yeah.
lot. Um, but yeah, I really want to try out Bitwig at some point. I've been looking at that lately.
I've never heard
Um,
of that.
yeah, Bitwig looks like it seems like it's like influenced by like modular like Eurorack stuff, which I'm too poor to afford any of that. So like um,
Same.
but it seems like it'd be fun to play with. And it's like not that expensive. I think like the highest like studio edition or whatever of Bitwig is like $500 or something. So that's really not bad.
What is a piece of advice you've gotten that you think other composers should know about?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I think the biggest revelation for me was just generally about like imposter syndrome. Like it wasn't like a piece of technical advice, but it was just, you know, everybody I talked to, they just like would tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like that too. Whenever I would tell them about like, because I definitely had a lot of imposter syndrome because I did all these tracks. They just kind of accidentally fell into the Signalis soundtrack, you know, and then here I am making music for other games, and I'm like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't know what I'm doing. And it just feels like everybody has that same experience, regardless of whether or not they earned it, or quote unquote, or whatever. So like, I think just kind of figuring out that everybody has those same struggles was like the biggest like advice, I guess, even though it wasn't like directly given to me as advice, but just generally picking people's brains. It seemed to be a common theme with everybody that I talked to. So,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, yeah, it just definitely mentally helped me out quite a bit.
That gives me something to think about too, because I definitely struggle with that myself.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like literally everybody I talk to, man, and I don't know why. I mean, like, um, I don't know. Maybe it's like a money thing too, where like um you feel like you need to be this like perfect version of yourself in order to sell your work and stuff like that, and like that perfect version of you doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So like you kind of set up yourself to feel inadequate based on whatever arbitrary dream you have of yourself, as the perfect version of yourself. So I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes you can't really control it too, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely not. Or else we'd not go through it, I guess. But yeah, it's hard to turn it off sometimes.
Do you have any advice for creating tension in music?
Um, yeah. I, I used to like think it was like for me, I used to like really go for like these like dense like cluster chords and stuff, and I loved like just big stacks of notes and stuff like that. But lately, it's been more about like kind of um layering like kind of like low like close notes together that had like the kind of like you can hear like the beat frequencies and stuff a little bit because they sound out of tune against each other. Like if you're doing like a very low E and F kind of hit together with just lots of like different layers of distortion, I feel like because you get a little bit of a different like kind of effect out of that. And I think for me that kind of like gives me, you know, a lot of tension whenever I'm like playing it and thinking about it a little bit. But um it's so weird to think about that too, because like you watch like movies and stuff like that. Like I mean like um a lot of times like the way they build tension is like super simple. It's like way, you know, I think we're all overthinking it a lot of times, you know what I mean? Because like, you know, the other half of the work is like the visual aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like if you're watching like um there was like an old movie I watched recently called Hangover Square. It was about like a uh this composer guy that had like a mental condition of some sort, or whenever he'd hear like a loud sound, he would just like black out and just like kill somebody or something. And it's like,
Whoa.
yeah, and like on paper the story is like super simple, you know what I mean? And like the score is by Bernard Herrmann, and it's like really good. It's beautiful. Um, but like the way like the tension exists, like, it's like the stuff Bernard's doing is like really great, but it's not like, rocket science or anything, you know what I mean? Like I think anybody could like pick it apart and like learn from it and stuff. But I think like it's just like the combination of like what we are doing and then what the game's doing or what the movie's doing or whatever that kind of like completes the other half of it. Um,
I don't-
oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you can go ahead.
to finish the thought though, I watch a lot of horror movies, and like there's sometimes where like the music is really good and has a lot of tension, but then the movie is just terrible. So like it doesn't, sometimes like all the work you do, it can not really matter too much if the other half of it isn't good.
Yeah. And you're also not in control of that really either.
Yeah. Yeah. You really aren't. I mean, like there's definitely some stuff that like, you know, that I've heard people like people like work on, and I'm like, I love the soundtrack, but I'm always just like, what are they doing here? Like, if the movie's just awful, but the composer's great or something. It's
Yeah.
tragic.
Or if an actor's great and they're in a bad movie.
Yeah, that too.
That's how I felt. Have you seen the Minecraft movie trailer?
No, no.
That's a good thing.
Who's in it?
It's Jack Black and I think the Aquaman actor.
Hmm.
I forget his name.
I know who you're
But
talking about. I can't remember his name either.
yeah, that just reminded me of that because I love Jack Black, but it does not look like it's gonna be good.
Hey, sometimes you just got to get a paycheck, like, you know, I think everybody like, working for any any creative industry at some point has to like, you know, just take the money and do
Yeah.
whatever shitty movie it is.
Yeah. At the end of the day, at least it's not hurting anybody. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully no one's getting hurt behind the scenes.
I hope not.
Have you ever transcribed songs by ear?
Uh, Barely. Like, I I can do melodic stuff as long as it isn't like super fast. I can do melodic stuff pretty easy, but like if it's really fast or if there's a lot of like dense chords, I have a hard time picking them out. Um, because whenever I was a kid, well, not a kid, whenever I was like I guess I was a kid. Whenever I was like in like middle school and high school and stuff, I was trying to figure out how to do these like chords that Thelonious Monk was doing on piano. I was trying to figure them
Mm.
out on guitar. I never could, but like because I think like oh no, drop something. I think like the cluster chords and stuff like that on piano are just like impossible to do in standard tuning on guitar, or at least impossible for me to think of, I guess. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of terrible at doing stuff by ear. Are you any good at it, or
I think I've gotten better at it over the years.
it's a
I
it's a tough skill.
Yeah, it's really hard, but I think what helps me is just I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Honestly, I just do it because I think it's fun.
Yeah, I think something that's been helpful for me lately has been like understanding like the function of like chords and stuff. You know what I mean? Um, and learning that like kind of helps you kind of get in the ballpark of like, oh, this is like a dominant chord or whatever, and like you kind of
Mm.
like you can get in the ballpark and work from it, from there or whatever is like a basis, and it's a little helpful, but I honestly don't do it as much as I should. I don't think like I feel like it's like a very important skill to have as a composer or musician or anybody in music, but um, I feel like it's something we all should be working on.
I think it's really helpful, even if you can't play by ear necessarily. I think it's helpful to still learn songs you love because you can still use that. You
Hmm.
can learn things from that in your own music.
Yeah, I, something for me. Um, I've been trying to learn how to play lap steel lately, and I've got this like eight-string lap steel, and everything you play on it kind of sounds like something from SpongeBob, just accidentally. But like,
I love
I've
that.
been, yeah, and like, um, a lot of times I'll try to like learn bits of a song, even though like you're kind of limited to like the fixed tuning and everything, and you can't really like play different frets or anything. You just have like the little glass like rod or whatever you're playing with. Um, but I think like that limitation like is really helped me think about like learning to like imply chords or learning to like get by with like a smaller amount of notes to like try to imply things. Like if I'm trying to learn how to do like an arrangement of, a song or something, it's been an interesting like thought process just trying to like learn how to do. more with very little, I guess.
How are you learning songs on steel guitar? Do you use YouTube for that?
Um, I've been like mostly doing things by ear a little bit, even though like it's a little iffy sometimes. And like I think I have it, but also think something is wrong. Like whenever I'm like,
Mm.
unsure of the arrangement I'm doing or something. But mostly that, or like yeah, there are like some stuff on YouTube, but um it's an instrument I think that only people that are like 90 play. So like it's hard to find like, good stuff on YouTube for it.
Yeah. I have a kalimba and I've thought about looking at more videos on that, but it might be one of those instruments too. I don't know.
Yeah, kalimba's so cool. I have one somewhere. I have like a in my bedroom, just like a pile of just like random little, stuff like that. And like I'm always like, oh, I'll use it someday or something. I'm too lazy to hook up like a microphone and record it and stuff like that. So,
What is one quote you live by or get inspired by often?
oh, a quote that I live by or get inspired by. Um, that's really interesting. I don't know if it's a quote, but I get really inspired by like people's kind of mentality and stuff whenever you like watch like their movie or listen. Like I've been rewatching a lot of John Carpenter stuff lately, and like, you know, I think he's a master at what he does, but I think like he also like it's very clear like in his movies and in his soundtracks even more so that he like, if something's good enough, just go with it, and don't like overthink it too much. And like you can just kind of you can tell that through his work, and like it's been a huge inspiration for me just to kind of like, not overthink or not like overproduce or, do whatever, just to try to like get something that inspires you and just kind of move on.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
All
I
right.
don't think I've seen any of the John Carpenter movies.
Oh man. If you're into horror and stuff, I mean like Halloween is like the perfect horror movie, especially, in the fall, this time of year and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, all of it's like I feel like he had a great run from like Assault on Precinct 13 up until whatever he did in like the late 80s. Once he got into the 90s, I feel like he fell off quite a bit, but um his like 80s stuff is really good though. He's like
Hmm.
super His stuff is like very lean and like very simple and like just super straightforward, and like I really do appreciate that. Uh as a composer have trouble. I like I can only think about like one thing at a time whenever I'm writing. Like
Hmm.
I can't like audibly hear like a lot of different things going on. Um and I kind of appreciate that about like John Carpenter's stuff is like there's not a whole bunch of bullshit going on. It's just like the most straightforward stuff, and like um it really goes with like how I think about things quite a bit because I really can't uh I don't really like make a lot of layers and stuff when I'm writing, and um
Same.
hundreds of it. I like watch YouTube videos and there'll be people like, here's a template and it's like 80 fucking tracks, and I'm like, holy, what are you doing with all that?
That's using a
Great.
lot of GPU.
Yeah. I don't know if my poor old computer can handle that.
Wait, this might be a silly question, but is John Carpenter the one who made the movie with the guy that says, "Here comes Johnny"? Is it
Oh
that
no,
that guy?
that's from The Shining, I think.
The
That was
Shining.
yeah, that's Stanley Kubrick.
Oh,
Also a great movie.
yeah. I
But
still haven't seen that one.
oh, it's great. Um, I feel like I watch like between like 4 and 6 movies a week, so I'm kind of always just kind of watching a lot of movies and stuff. And I feel like there's people I know that like haven't seen a lot of older stuff, and like that's totally cool. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. Because a lot of it, like you know, if you're not into it to begin with, then you might be wasting your time by watching some stuffy old movie from 50 years ago or something. You know what I mean?
I think I love old movies. It kind of depends on the style of it. I don't,
Hmm.
for me personally, I don't really watch movies that much in
Hmm.
general, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I don't think there's anything wrong with it because like it's definitely it's a huge commitment. You know what I mean? Like people don't have enough free time as it is, and then they're sitting there watching like an hour and a half long at a minimum thing. You know, that could be sometimes they're like 3 hours or more. So it's like it's a huge time sink.
It's still a really cool art form though, and I really respect it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, I definitely like if I could, you know what I mean? I'd love to like make music for like horror movies and stuff. Maybe someday.
I could see you doing really well at that.
It'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I definitely it's something I've kind of I feel like dreamed of since I was like, a kid almost, So.
What's the style of music you're not a fan of?
Oh. Oh, I'm the most like oblivious person ever. Like I of the stuff I listen to, like it's almost like nothing else exists outside of that. So like I hear people bring up genres and stuff. Like they'll like I'll see some
There's
video.
so many of them now.
Yeah, and like I'm like, what even is this? And like I just I'm just out of the loop. I'm too out of the loop to even hate things. You know what I mean? Like if I, you know, because if I don't, I just don't know that most of it exists, to be honest. Like I don't know. I hate like I guess it's like I had to answer the question directly, I guess. Like uh I hate stuff that's just boring, you know what I mean? Like I think if someone's going for it and they're having fun and you can just kind of tell, like I'm always kind of into it. Um,
Yeah,
but like I think if someone is like phoning it in or whatever and it's just kind of uninspired or whatever, then it's easy to tell and then it's easy to be kind of turned off by that.
yeah. I think I agree with that.
'Cause I think there's like I think there's good things to be taken from like anything really, like I watch a lot of like said there's not a lot of videos on YouTube that are like tutorials on how to make weird music for horror games, Not a lot of material for
Yeah,
that, but like I end up watching like a lot of like YouTube tutorials for like drum and bass or like techno or whatever. And like I don't listen to a ton of that, but like it's like there's always something to be learned from it, I guess. You know what I mean? Little techniques or things like that.
yeah. I think you can always, even if there's a song you don't like, maybe there could be something in it that you like, maybe in just a
Yeah.
smaller part, and you can use that as inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of like, especially for horror too, there's a lot of weird things where like I'll be listening to a song and something will like kind of like spook me a little bit, and I'm like, I gotta steal that or I gotta figure out why that happened or whatever.
Do you have any go-to albums?
Uh yeah. Well, I guess the ones I mentioned earlier, like I guess the Tim Hecker album, I really like of his the most is like I think it's called Virgins, I think.
Hmm.
Um my favorite Ryuichi Sakamoto album is called Async. I think it was the first album I ever heard of his.
He's the
Um
jazz pianist, right?
it does some
Or
soundtrack stuff. He was in uh oh no. What's
I
the
might be
name of the
thinking of
band?
someone else.
Uh was he in Yellow Magic Orchestra? Yes, he was. I'm looking at the wiki. I was going to say we can delete this if yeah, he was in that. Um, but he did like a lot of kind of ambient work and soundtrack work in his like later career, and it's all like super cool. Um, Kind of like almost like abstract type song structures and some of it too, where it's not like, you know, however many bars for this and that, verse, chorus, blah blah blah. Like he kind of like more organic song structures on async that I really really liked. It was one of those things too, where like I just didn't know like that was allowed. You know what I mean? Like you could
Hmm.
just let things go and do whatever. Um, what are their albums? Oh, I'm a big sucker for a lot of like classic um albums. Like I like Kate Bush's Hounds of Love. I'm a big fan of that. It's like this like has a lot of like really lush like 80s synths and stuff. Um,
She had a
it's
song in Stranger Things, right?
I think so. I haven't seen Stranger Things in it's like season one or whatever, but I did see like some tweets and stuff going around about one of her tracks or something. So it was probably off of that album. It was a huge album. Um, it's like a 70s country album I'm a big fan of, by Waylon Jennings called Dreaming My Dreams. It's like I think like the perfect like country album. It's really this is incredible.
I'll be honest, I'm not too big of a country fan, but
Uh-huh.
sometimes I think there are some interesting country songs, I think. It's just for modern country. It's kind of
Yeah, the modern stuff is terrible. Like, I mean, I've lived in Tennessee like all my life almost, and like could just hear it everywhere you go, regardless of whether or not you want to. Um, and I feel like it's been pretty bad for uh ever since I was a kid almost. I mean, like I really only like stuff like 80s and before, even the 80s country's kind of bad more often than not, but um, you know, uh I think that, it's just like a weird I think the industry just kind of like has it's very like self-insulated, so like it kind of like is
sorry, what does
eating its own.
insulated mean?
I just they're sort of like I feel like it's I feel like I mean that like in a sense of like they don't really take uh I don't know. I feel like they're out of touch um with everything, and it's just become like a big kind of messy product that just sort of
Mm,
isn't really a genre that has its own identity anymore or anything, like
yeah.
I think that like um there's some modern people that are trying to like take it back to like either like the way things were or like kind of take new spins on older stuff. Like um Charlie Crockett has like some tremendously just fantastic albums. And he's a newer guy, but um
Nice.
yeah, mostly if I'm listening to it, I'm listening to like old like Patsy Cline shit or something from like 50s, 60s or whatever, just old stuff.
I'll go listen to those later.
I'll send you some tracks then.
Thank you.
No
Yeah,
problem.
I think I'm open to country music, but modern modern country is just not it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard someone I was in like Target the other day, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" It's terrible.
And then if you're, I don't know if you have this experience, but a lot of my family listens to it. So when I'm with family, I have to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. That's always a disaster. If I go and visit my folks, it's like because I don't really like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on with it because I don't listen to it at all. But like if I go over and visit my family or whatever, like it's just on the radio, and I'm like, "This is you got to get me out of here." It's terrible.
I love them though, so I don't say anything.
Yeah.
Are there any mixing plugins that you would recommend to other composers?
Oh, I'm uh, awful at mixing. I don't really like. I've had people explain it to me and stuff, and like I try to like intuitively make things sound how I want them to sound, but then like you watch like a tutorial or you get advice from like friends, and it's the opposite. Like I'm just doing the exact wrong thing every time, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Mostly I just use stock stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if things are clashing or whatever, I'll clean it up with EQ. Um, if things are a little too all over the place with the volume, I try to like straighten it out with a little compression and stuff like that. But I don't get too crazy with it. Um, most of the time, I just do like super basic stuff.
Do you think getting feedback a lot on your mix is helpful?
Um, I think it's helpful. Whether or not I learn from it or listen listen to it, it's different. Like I try to like take everybody's advice to heart and like try to you know get better and learn stuff from people because like I talk to just loads and loads of like other indie composers all the time, and like I'm always trying to pick people's brains, and then like I get that info and I don't do anything with it more often than not because like it just like I don't know, instinctively isn't the thing that I'm trying to do most of the time.
Hmm. I think I've been asking a lot of questions about advice.
Dude, yeah, it's definitely that thing too of like it's hard to like I don't know if anybody ever fully knows what they're doing or feels like they know what they're doing, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like everybody is always getting better, but they don't really. It's like you know how you like you look at yourself every day in the mirror, so you don't notice if like you're gaining a pound or two, or
Hmm.
or whatever, or maybe you don't notice like your small changes over time, and I think that's what everybody is like, um, with their music career, their kind of like musical identity and stuff. It's like small little changes every day of getting better or getting worse or getting different, and then like you don't notice it over time, so like um you never really think that you're uh where you should be or a complete version of yourself because you're not noticing that small, you know, granular change,
Yeah. I think I think the way my brain works is I'm just always looking to learn new stuff. So
hmm
I'm always asking those kinds of questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because like a lot of times like I'm always trying to learn new stuff, but at the same time, like, life's too short to learn everything. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you know, I can't be good at a million things, you know what I mean? So like why am I trying to learn, so there's definitely like a diminishing returns to it, I feel like.
Also, we can have this part in, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
It's always funny when we take a break on an episode and then we get back into talking because sometimes I don't know if they wanted us to keep it in or,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Keep whatever, It's all good to me.
Awesome. Are there any games you're looking forward to that are coming out soon?
Um, I think this is a common occurrence for me or common pattern for me is like I don't know what's going on ever when it comes to like music
Honestly,
genre
same.
or games or what movies are coming out. Because a lot of times, like if I know it's coming, I'll get super hyped about it, and then when it sucks or something, I'll just be crushed. So like, I try not to look for anything that I'm going to be excited about. That way, like if something comes out, I'm like, oh, I didn't know about this, and I have a great time with it. Um, I do want to play the new. Is the new Silent Hill remake or whatever?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
out yet?
I don't think it's out yet. I think. Wait, I'm gonna look up when it's coming out.
Me too.
The power of the internet.
Yeah.
I think
What do we
It's October 8th.
Okay, so it's coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to play that. Um, I don't
I
really
hope
have
it's
like,
good.
yeah, I hope it's good too. I'm excited to hear the music for it. So I hope it's like kind of like slightly updated versions of like the older tracks or whatever.
And it's the same composer.
hmm
I think for me,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the gameplay the most because I mean the graphics are it's kind of that realistic style, you know? It's
hmm
not anything too crazy, but I think the key thing is I'm looking forward to the old gameplay being ported to this new style.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Um, I don't hardly kill things in like horror games most of the time. Like whenever I played Silent Hill 2, like the original one or whatever, like I just kind of sidestepped everything as much as I could, like without having to kill that much, unless I had to. I do that in most horror games because like I always just kind of want to conserve ammo or whatever, but like a lot of times like it's just kind of unnecessary, and so the gameplay like doesn't matter to me too much because I'm trying to avoid like combat as
I
much as I can. So most of the time just walking around, you know what I mean? Like, looking at stuff.
forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, this might sound silly, but I was gonna say I get lost a lot in games.
Oh yeah.
Eh, I don't know if you'd relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm a big fan of I used to play a lot of Morrowind on I think it was on the 360. Maybe not
I've heard of that
360.
game.
Original Xbox. Um and like there was no like quest markers for things. They would just like tell
Oh
you, hey,
boy.
yeah. But then like a lot of times I feel like the directions were wrong or something, or so like you would kind of get in the area, but it wouldn't quite be right, and like and I honestly kind of enjoy that more, like kind of getting lost a little bit and like stumbling into something else on accident, as opposed to like if I have like a quest marker or something, I'll just follow it, without even like kind of looking at anything. And, you know, um, I feel like it's not as fun for me if I go there directly most of the time.
Hmm. I think for me, if there's a map in a game that you don't necessarily need, it's kind of more fun to just explore without using it as much as possible.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
then you get more gameplay out of it too.
Yeah. I definitely like kind of just meandering around, getting lost and stuff. Um, been playing a lot of like, besides Caves of Cod, I've been playing Daggerfall, which was like the Elder Scrolls before Morrowind. Like it was like a 90s game or whatever. And like I feel like it's procedurally generated, but it's like huge. It's like one of the biggest games I've ever seen. And like even the dungeons, like you can just kind of get lost for hours and hours in there because I think they're also procedurally generated. So like they can be, 6 or 8 floors deep and have like loads and loads of rooms and kind of turn in on itself and have dead ends and stuff. And like um I kind of really enjoy that. It's like not streamlined or optimized in any way, but I think like it's much more fun and you kind of get this kind of feeling of dread of like, oh, what if I can't find my way back out of here? And it kind of like it kind of feels more realistic, I guess, of just like I may be stuck in here for a while, if I can't figure my way out. Which is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Have you ever played LCD Dream Emulator?
No.
Have you heard of
Uh,
that?
Let me look it up.
It might look familiar.
I think no, no, I haven't played this. This looks fun though.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It looks like you just get lost forever in this game.
I think it's also procedurally generated. I might be
Hmm.
wrong though.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to play this at some point.
Might be something you like.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I like this, like walking around and looking at shit half the time, and it feels like there's a lot to look at here.
Me too. One of my favorite games is You May Nikki. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, I've never played it. I've kind of heard of it, but um I've never played it.
It's it's really it's kind of a non-traditional game. I
Mm.
mostly view it as more of an art piece, honestly. But you
Yeah,
do a lot of exploring and just looking around at stuff.
yeah. I'm looking at images of it now. It's definitely one of those games I feel like I hear of a lot, but I just haven't. I've never played it. It looks super cool though. I should probably give this a try.
It's pretty cool. I don't know why I'm just really obsessed with it.
Uh,
But
Sorry, just bringing up the Steam page right now so I can remember to get it later.
oh yeah, and it's free, which is
Oh,
awesome.
sick. Okay, hell yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely play this game. Nice. Any game where I can just kind of wander around and look at shit, like it's just like the most fun. I mean, I definitely like creating like weird characters and stuff, but honestly, just like excuse me, exploring and just looking at shit, interacting with everything is just I think like the most fun for me in a game.
Have you seen you know what Untitled Goose Game is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you know the developers are making a new game and it's this cooperative I think it's a walking simulator, but there's puzzles and stuff too in the world.
No, I gotta look that up.
I don't know if it is called a walking simulator, but it's one of those games where you explore a lot.
It's called Big Walk.
Yeah, big walk. Well, th that might mean it's a walking simulator.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like, I don't play a lot of like big like AAA games aside from like the Resident Evil games or if there's like a new Silent Hill or something. Like, I'll play those, but like, I think like kind of like smaller studios are making like the most interesting stuff, and like I
Yeah.
um really just like anybody's like weird take on. I'm looking at screenshots of this and I have no clue.
What's
This looks
happening?
crazy. Yeah, yeah.
You're
I'll
talking about Big
definitely,
Walk, right?
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely play this. This was
Yeah.
like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to play it too.
Wow.
I think it's a cooperative game.
I'll have to get some friends to play it with then. That's pretty neat. Yeah, there's so many cool games like that where it's just like, yeah, I don't think they would ever get made like in a AAA sense, but like
Yeah.
you know, I think like smaller studios are just gonna continue to do like the coolest shit, and like I don't know, it's a good space to be in.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Video Game Donkey?
Hmm.
Did you see his game studio stuff?
Did he do did he do Animal Well?
Yeah, he published it.
Oh, sick. Yeah, Animal Well's really cool. I love the soundtrack for it.
I've heard
Um,
it's really good.
I haven't
The
beaten
art
it
style
yet.
is really cool.
Um, I'm really sometimes I'll get like too lost in in those like Metroidvania style games, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, and I just sort of stop playing them. But I really liked
That,
all the music I heard for it.
that was me with Hollow Knight.
Oh, same. Yeah. I got I got to some part of it. I backtracked like all over the place like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, yeah, I'll come back to this, and I never did. I kind of regret it, but yeah, I could always replay it at some point. But
Yeah.
that's one of the like that soundtrack is beautiful, man. That
Oh yeah.
Hollow Knight.
I forget who does that, but
Yeah, I don't
it's
know either.
yeah, it's beautiful. I think I listened to it on a train in Italy, and that
Oh,
was a good
sick.
experience.
Dude, it's one of those like because like I feel like I specialize in like noisier stuff and like kind of distorted synths and like things that are kind of like falling apart and stuff. And like in my head, sometimes I'll hear a soundtrack and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that too. But like, I don't think like, I don't think if you gave me 20 years, I could make something that pretty. You know what I mean? It's just such a beautiful soundtrack.
I think for me, whenever I listen to music, I try to think of ways that I could make that,
Yeah.
but then I end up failing at doing that, and I make up something different.
Yeah, I don't have much string library stuff at all. Like, so I don't think I could even make anything like that. I have like, um, whatever that free like BBC orchestra thing is that
Oh yeah,
Spitfire made, but like, you know,
that's
even
funny.
that.
I
Oh,
talked
sorry, go
about
ahead.
that on the last episode with someone.
Oh, really? It's nice. I mean, like, I just like, I can't bring myself to pay money for like higher end string libraries and stuff. Like it just seems like I don't know. I just mentally can't do it. You know? Even though I have like a couple like not too expensive, but a couple pricey sets and some of that, I just like can't bring myself to pay 500 or 600 bucks for like something. It's just like a software thing. It seems crazy.
I think Spitfire is pretty good. I mean, their free stuff is great.
Yeah, I used a ton of it on the Signalis soundtrack, like the labs or whatever it is. Like I used a lot of that,
Oh yeah.
uh, and then like on like Cigarette Wife or whatever. Like I used that BBC orchestra thing, but I just put a lot of distortion on everything. So most of it's like the cellos or horns or whatever, but just like,
Mm.
shitload of fuzz and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny when I hear it sounds like that, I can never tell the original source what the
Mhm.
instrument was because of
Yeah,
how much distortion you use.
yeah. I think that's the fun in it for me too. It's like, um, because a lot of times you can get like an instrument that's not that interesting or a sample that's not that interesting, and I think giving it some value by making it your own and like kind of messing with it until you like it, I think is like a way that like I buy into the work that I'm doing, like mentally, I guess. Like if I don't like a kick or something or don't like whatever sound, like, you know, if I can do sound design until I do like it, then I feel like I'm bought in and I'm ready to use it, and it kind of means more to me that way, I guess.
If you could go back in time and tell yourself something you wish you would have known now, what would you tell yourself?
Um, I think I would tell myself, um, I would I think I would tell myself to save all my project files like in the cloud or something, because you know, there's been a couple times I've needed to go back.
That was me recently with my own.
Yeah, I still don't do it. I don't even have like a backup like hard drive or anything that I'm using. Like, so if like my computer crashes, I'm just ruined, which
Oh
is like
no.
insane. Um, but yeah, like whenever we did like the Signalis vinyl re-release,
Mm.
Carl, who worked on the masters for it, great guy. I definitely recommend working with him. I don't know. I think it's Loom Studios or something. I may be wrong about that, but he's fantastic, and this is the most like enthusiastic person I've ever met. Um, but he was telling me like a lot of my tracks had like some clipping and stuff. I didn't know about clipping back then that much. So I didn't really care. And I didn't like have a lot of my project files for anything, like because I'd switched computers and for some reason, whenever I like got the computer and hooked it back up, like a lot of the plugins like didn't work or something. So like I
Mm.
didn't couldn't like recreate any of the files I had for those tracks. Um, there was a couple of them I could salvage, but like I really regret not having those files and stuff like that because I feel like they weren't very important to me back then. Like I just sort of made them and I was like, okay, whatever. But then like over the years, I've lost all of them, and I really wish I had them.
It's one of those things too where you make something and you don't know how it's going to turn out,
Hmm.
but you can always, I think, well, for me recently, I had that similar experience. I wanted to go back and transcribe my own stuff to sheet music.
Hmm.
And my process for that has been using the MIDI and kind of just using the MIDI and then I don't know how to explain it, but I
Yeah.
use the MIDI for it. And there's a lot of old songs I don't have anymore, so I can't use that MIDI for it. And I really
Hmm.
regret that. So I
Yeah.
relate to your story.
Do you how do you feel about your music whenever you make a song? Like are you usually pretty happy when you finish a track, or like do you like go back and listen to your stuff whenever you're done with it, like your older stuff or anything?
I feel weird about it. I think I listen to my stuff a lot, which most
Uh-huh.
people don't do.
Yeah.
Or I kind of feel like most people make their music and then they don't listen to it.
Yeah.
But I actually like my own music. Maybe I don't know what that says, but
Yeah. I'm always curious about that because like I usually by the time I'm done with a piece, I hate it and I never want to hear it ever again. And like I'm just like I just like I'm so over it. Um, because more often than not, like I'll get started and then something horrible will go wrong, and then
mm.
I don't know how to fix it, or I'm too committed to like a dumb idea or a dumb sound, and it's ruining everything. You know what I mean? And like by the time I get done with a piece, I'm just like, oh, and like I just never want to hear it again. But then like after a couple of years or whatever, like I'll go back and I'll listen to it. I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. I don't know what I was like
Yeah.
mad about before or whatever. Um, definitely a weird experience.
I think it's never as bad as we think it is in our heads.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, like, I was talking with my buddy about this the other day. I think, like, you know, no matter how bad I think some of my stuff is or whatever, like, I think there's always like an audience for anything. I mean, like, because there's
Mm.
like, so many people online and everything. And like, you know, I feel like you can reach any audience, no matter how weird or niche you know, or whatever, I feel like there's always an audience out there.
Yeah. I mean, a good example of that, I recently did a community group show on the internet,
Hmm.
and it basically I just did some visuals to my own music.
Hmm.
And the person behind the show, I think they're really into making weird stuff,
Hmm.
and that's kind of their thing, and it's doing really well.
Really? That's
I
pretty
mean,
sick.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's niche, but it's still even that if it's I think having an audience, even if it's niche, is really
Mhm.
a great thing.
Do you think that the visuals like helped it find an audience?
I think so. Because it also, I think people, they, for the show and stuff, even if they aren't experienced with music, they can still use that show as a way to kind of get themselves out there and start
Hmm.
working on stuff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like combining like music with visuals and stuff is the way to like actually get like I feel like more of an audience. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Um, my buddy Hohenheim puts these like videos out on YouTube all the time, and they're like they have like pictures and clips of like the things that inspired the track, if it's like Chainsaw Man or whatever,
Oh
and
yeah.
like I feel like having like a visual like identity to kind of associate with the music as a listener is like just a huge like hurdle as opposed to like just having like a blank screen and just being the title or whatever.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's why album artwork is important too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely um I mean I've only really put out one album, but I think the artwork was like exactly what I wanted, you know, and I was just
Flicker
super
Vertigo,
happy with
right?
it. Yeah, I was really happy with it.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Thank you.
You
Um,
released that after Signalis, right?
yeah, um, some of the stuff on Flickr Vertigo was like things I was like making like after I was aware of or after like I was like involved in Signalis, you know, like before that window before like it released or whatever. Um, so stuff I was trying to like not make for the game, but like make in the same vein of stuff that was on the game.
Hmm.
Um, and then other stuff was just sort of like me experimenting with like hardware and like different synths and stuff like that, and just sort of, you know, seeing what happens.
Hmm. I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
No worries.
That happens sometimes.
Do you when you're writing stuff for an album, do you like have like a theme in your head, or you just sort of like group off like a section of songs you made over a short period of time? Like how do you normally go about it?
Hmm. I think the main thing for me is when I make music, I don't necessarily have a theme. I I kind of well, the theme is usually whatever I'm feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I use whatever emotions I'm having as inspiration for my music for the most part.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, definitely like it's something I've been wanting to like make a new album. I've been making a couple tracks lately with like a new like I have like a smaller hardware setup that I usually have. I usually had like five or six different synths hooked up and like it's sort of just a huge mess. And lately I've kind of narrowed it down to like three or four synths and my lap steel. And I've been making like kind of more focused stuff that's just kind of like a smaller sonic palette, I guess. It's just like more like kind of raw materials, you know. Um, I've been wanting to make an album out of these things I'm working on, but I really um, don't know where I'm going with it. So like I don't know if I should release just like an album that's just like all over the place because it's gonna be, you know, whatever, but I don't know. I may be overthinking it because like I feel like, you know, I don't know, like 1,000 people listen to Flickr Vertigo or something, you know, and that's it. So like it the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter too much.
Maybe you can make a SpongeBob album with the steel guitar.
Dude, I totally could. I know how to play. I don't even know the name of the song. I learned how to play it. Uh, it's like whenever something sad happens in SpongeBob, it's
Oh
just like
yeah.
lap steel cue. I can play most of that. I probably should just do a SpongeBob cover album. It'd be pretty sick.
That would be sick. I think you'd have to pay for a cover license for that, right?
Oh, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's
I,
tricky.
yeah, I thought about that because like um, there's some games I think it'd be fun to do like some covers of, put them out, but I don't know the legal kind of like boundaries for doing that, so kind of scared to do anything like that.
I mean, I'm doing a survey business and music class in
Mm.
college. So if I learn anything, maybe I can tell you about it.
Oh, nice. Thanks. Yeah, I know like there's been a couple people that did like Signalis like piano covers on YouTube, and I think they uploaded those to Spotify. So I really don't know how all that stuff works.
I think if you use DistroKid or whatever, I think you can get a license from uploading it to there, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you have to pay a certain amount a year though
Hmm.
for that.
Okay. That's pretty sick.
Yeah. It's a lot easier than having to get permission from every artist.
Yeah. Especially like I don't read I have like a Signalis like email address. I don't read it that often, So like people will send me an email asking if they could use the music in whatever video or something. And I'm always replying like 3 months too late.
Yeah, I've noticed online everyone responds at different rates
Yeah.
because everyone's just they have different schedules and stuff.
I'm I'm like just super scatterbrained and I'll forget about things for months and then I'll come back to it and then, I don't know. There was some like mechanical royalties thing I was trying to sign up with through some service or whatever, and they like, oh yeah, just send me this info, and then I forgot about it for like a year and a half, and then I was like, I can't go back and email them out of the blue now. It's too late.
I think I have the opposite problem sometimes. I reply really fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If someone direct messages me, I get back to them pretty quick, but like um if it's like an email or whatever, then I'm lousy at replying.
I think I've been trying to get better at not replying too fast and just kind of thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely I don't know. I hope I'm not losing out on too many like opportunities for like working on games and stuff because I'm too lazy to check my messages.
I guess you'll find out.
I probably won't if I don't check them, right? I'll never know, which is probably better for me mentally to not know at all.
What if you look in there and you get hired for GTA 6 or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be crushed. Like if it was like something I actually cared about, it'd be
What do you
terrible.
think about GTA 6, by the way?
Um,
Did you
is
ever
it
see the
coming?
trailer?
No,
I
no,
did, but I forgot what happens in it.
I I try not to look at trailers for things too
That's
often.
fair.
Um, Especially movies and stuff. Like so a lot of times they give like an expectation away that I'm
Yeah.
like, and then I'll bring that to the thing, and it's not like that at all or whatever. So you know, there was like 5 movies this summer that I was like hyped up to go see, and I hated all of them. So, even like avoiding trailers and stuff, I still just get kind of let down by most things. I
Thank.
feel like,
Yeah. I've been trying not to look at trailers too, but I think GTA 6 was one of those things where everyone was not sure if it was even gonna happen.
yeah,
So I just watched it for the fun of it.
games are too big, man. I can't even, you know, I tried playing whatever the new Red Dead was that came out,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
but then there's all this shit you can do. It's like, oh, you
it's
can
crazy.
grow a beard and calm your horse or whatever the fuck, and then I'm like, this is too much chores. Like, I just want to
Play a game.
be like Yosemite Sam or some shit. I don't know, but it just like it felt like overwhelming, and I couldn't play it. And, um, I don't know. It's weird because like I do play a lot of games. Like Caves of Cut is pretty huge, or Daggerfall is pretty huge, but like it. none of it feels like that important, so I just do whatever I want, you know? Um, versus like games that are like kind of try to guide you along the main story. I get a little overwhelmed by and I just don't want to play them. Like was it Dragon's Dogma 2? You know, I love the first one, and then I go to play the second one, and it just feels like a huge game, and I just got kind of intimidated by it. I quit playing it. I haven't went back to it yet.
I think for me, my favorite types of games are indie games with stories.
Hmm.
Usually the ones that are hand drawn and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely like shorter games you can beat in like, 10, 20 hours or something like that, or like kind of the sweet spot for me whenever it comes to like most games.
Yeah.
I definitely I don't know. I played like Baldur's Gate 3 and I think it took me like I don't know, 120 hours or something to
Whoa.
beat. And
I don't
I'm
think
like, I'll never play this again. It's too huge.
I haven't really played a game for that long.
Yeah.
Unless I think the last game I played for that long was CS:GO when I was in middle school.
Oh, sick. Yeah, some games I'll sink a lot of time into, man. You ever play the Monster Hunter games?
I've played a little bit. I think I played it when I had Game Pass.
Nice. Um, yeah, I think I've played like every one of them since uh, I started on like the PSP ones. Um, but then like pretty much everyone after that I've played like I probably put like 500 hours into like every one of them like
Whoa.
since then. And yeah, I just like games that are sort of like where you can play like smaller chunks, like that, where you can just sort of like go fight a monster for an hour or whatever. Like those kind of games, like I can just sink a lot of time into because if I want to quit or whatever, I feel like it's the cycle for finishing what you're doing is pretty short, so you can just sort of get in and get out, so you can do as much as you want or as little as you want.
I feel kind of bad. I'm kind of a fake gamer. I think I
Uh,
listen to I think I listen to the music more than I do play the games.
oh yeah, same for me. I mean, like I do play a lot of games, but like there's a lot of games that like I want to play that I'm like haven't got around to yet. Like what was it like Crow Country or whatever that came out?
Oh,
Or
yeah. I played a
um,
little bit of that.
the soundtrack is fantastic. I just like I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. The music, I think that's Okoroid.
Hmm.
Yeah. They're also a really good artist, visual artist.
Really?
Yeah. They do animation and stuff on YouTube.
No kidding. You'll have to send me some of it if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That'd be cool. Yeah, a lot of those games like that, I really want to play them, and I just like I can't bring myself to do it. Like I don't know why. Like I'm just like because I feel like it's important or something, or like so I like oh I need to set aside time to play this as opposed to like just playing something I don't care about too much. I just do that without thinking. So a lot of those games I just never get around to, even if they are like great or have great soundtracks that I listen to constantly. I just never actually play them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely interesting to think about.
Yeah.
I think that's a good time to wrap up the episode, unless there's
Oh,
anything else that you want to talk about.
I'm good. I think it's kind of covered a lot of stuff.
I've had a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah, me too, man. If you want to do this again sometime, just holler at me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Alrighty. Hey, have a good one.
And yeah, thanks everyone for listening or watching. And I'll see you guys next time. We love
Yeah.
you.